So now we have a shell and we need to start focusing on enumeration. Now this just goes back to our hacking roots. You know the 5 steps of hacking, and the first 3 of those are information gathering, scanning and enumeration, and then exploitation. Well, we've done that, and now we've exploited this machine, but we are a low-level user. So guess what? We have to go back to our roots, and we have to start focusing again on that scanning and enumeration. We have to look at what information is out there and see how we can utilize that to elevate our privileges into a system-level user. That is our end goal here. So what we're going to do first is we're going to focus on system. So system enumeration is looking at things like system info, and we could see things like the operating system name or the operating system version, maybe the system architecture. We can look at the host name. We can extract patching and see what sort of patching is out there, what sort of hot fixes are out there, and we'll talk about that here in a second. We can look at things like the drives on the system, etc. So we just want to take a look at what the system is providing us from a high level. So let's dive into a shell. And one of the first easy commands that we can do is just type in system info. And this will come back into play a little bit later when we actually utilize tools for all of this. But here you can see that we have the host name, we've got the operating system being Windows 7, we've got the operating system version, we've got the manufacturer, all sorts of information, who the owner is of this machine. We could tell we're running on VMware, so x86 architecture, etc. Now, in all those resources that I provided you, there are some great one-liners. Now, this is one of those I've kind of taken and modified, but let's say that we want to just pull down system info and we kind of want to grep upon it. And I just want to pull down a few things. So let's say system info, and the pipe here is similar to grep. We're going to just say find string, and we're going to just go /B/C, and we're going to grab the OS name. We're going to grab the OS version, and we're going to grab the system type. And let's take a look at what this does. Now, I don't expect you to type this all out. It's just as easy to put in system info and review this. But say you just wanted to pull down this information, this is a quick way to do it. And this is a good way just to learn the syntax of Windows command line if you're not familiar with it. So we could do a quick find string, pull down some information, and now we just see, instead of all this mess, we can just say, hey, we're running on Windows 7. Here's our build version. Here's the version type, etc. And then we've got an x86 architecture on this PC. So that's very useful information to know. For example, if we're trying to run an exploit against this machine and this exploit is for 64-bit only, we can rule that one out because we know, hey, it's only x86 architecture. Or if we're trying to run a kernel-based exploit, for example, which we haven't gotten to yet, and we're trying to do it against a version that is newer than this, it's probably not going to work. So we want to make sure that we fall in line with the right parameters for the exploit, and having the information in front of us helps. Same thing, maybe the exploits for Windows 10 doesn't work on Windows 7, or maybe it's for Windows 7 Home Edition and doesn't work on Enterprise. There's a lot of variables here for exploits that we need to kind of understand the information behind them before we can just start firing exploits at this. So it's good to know your system info. If you want to pull down things like hostname, you can add that in, or you can just type in hostname, for example, but also appears in the system info. Another important thing to do is we can extract patching. So we can look at how well patched the system is. Now, it's not going to work on this system, this WMI-QFE, and I'll explain what this is in a second. You can see I typed it in, doesn't work. So I'm going to pull up another Windows box that I have, and I'm going to show you what it does look like when you actually run it against the system where it works. Now, WMI, what is that? That's the Windows Management Instrumentation, and the C just stands for command line. Basically, what it does for us is it returns information about the system that we're running it on. And what we're looking at with the QFE is what's called quick fix engineering. We're basically just trying to see, hey, what's available, what's been patched, when was it last patched? So let's pull up this command prompt here, and let me just say WMIC QFE here. And if you have a Windows machine, you can do this again on yours, and you can see things now. You can see, okay, well, here is the knowledge base ID. Here's the hotfix ID. Here's who installed it. And here's when it was installed. So maybe we know based on these different knowledge bases whether or not something is patched or not patched with what we're looking at. So this is a very common, quick and dirty command to run. Now, we can run something like this. Let me just copy and paste it and show it to you. If you want to copy and paste this out, you can. And that did not copy, I apologize. So when we copy and paste this, we can kind of narrow down and just say WMIC QFE, and then we can say get, and we can just pull down what we want. Say we only want the caption, the description, the hotfix ID, and then installed on. Then we can really narrow down and not have to look at this big list. We can just get a nice and cleaner list here. So this is one of those things, just like that system info, where you can put this into a quick copy paste list if you're doing enumeration, or we can rely on tools once we get to the tools section to actually kind of help us and do this for us. So this is important to know. Again, we can look at the knowledge bases, see what's out there, and how we can exploit it. So the last thing I want to show you with system related for now, we'll get into more things that we're going to look at as we go, but just the basics of what we're looking at is just let's list out the drives. Maybe there's other drives out there. So what we can do is we can do it a WMIC again, and we can just say logical disk. And you can see all the different information here. That looks kind of dirty, right? We don't really want that. So we could do something like list drives, or or we could just do something like this. This is what I actually like to copy and paste. So we could do WMIC, and then again, we'll just do get caption, description, provider name, and watch what happens. And then you could see, hey, C, D, E, F, and H exist on this one specifically. Now, if you just wanted it really quick, and you just wanted to say, hey, WMIC logical disk, you could just say get caption, and get the caption, and it'll still pull down how many drives are there, and you don't have to necessarily pull down the description or provider name. But quick wins here to see what's there. Maybe you're enumerating a machine and you're on the C drive, but maybe there's this E, F, and H drives that you could look through. Maybe there's information in those drives. You want to make sure that you have the knowledge in front of you and all the information in front of you that's possible. So that's it for this video. We're going to go ahead and move on to user-based enumeration. And so I will catch you in the next video when we start talking about how to enumerate users and groups.